Okay, we will, I guess, get started, Karen. Good
Okay, go ahead.
morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wendy Delgado. I am the owner of Title Now. We are an attorney-owned and operated title company. We've been in business for 14 years, collectively in the title and in the real estate industry for 26 years. Like I said, we are attorney-owned and operated. My business partner, Tahir Nuhani, is an attorney. In addition, we have another attorney on staff, Evan Khan. Um, we are fully bilingual. We do residential as well as commercial and are also fully experienced in the wholesale business, assignments, double closings, novations. This morning, we are going to go ahead and our underwriter is nice enough and graceful enough to provide you guys with a listing, how to become a successful listing agent. This will be recorded, so you can go ahead and get a copy of this, and I will also send any notes that Karen provides us with. I put in my contact information in the chat. I would love for any of you to reach out to me. I would love to create a business relationship where we can, be your preferred title company, something that we do. My background is transaction coordination. So I provide all my agents with a transaction coordinator throughout the entire transaction, alleviating you from all the due diligence of the contract. So please, guys, take down my phone number. I'm happy to assist you. I'm happy to, be your preferred vendor, help you get to your next level. And I hope you enjoy this class.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. Well, good morning, everyone. We are going to get started. My name's Karen Michaels. I'm with Fidelity. We are one of the underwriters for Title Now. And I want to thank Wendy for letting me do this today. By the way, I've known Wendy for, I don't know, like 8 years now. Great company. She's awesome. Always on call. Just really excellent professionals at Title Now. So highly recommend using them. All right, I'm going to go through the presentation and I will send a copy of this over to Wendy and she can forward it on to all of you. And as she said, it is being recorded so you can listen back again. But we're going to go through, let me move my thing here, all of these kind of topics for today. So we've got listing agents versus buyer's agents, becoming best listing agent, marketing, steps for a successful listing. A lot of this information I get from Florida Association of Realtors website. They provide so many resources for you and they have tons of articles. They have these little like take 5 videos that where they interview realtors in whatever field and they give, tips and tools of the trade. And so I took a lot of this from there and kind of combined it for you. So it's a lot of info, a lot of tips and all kinds of things that maybe you hadn't thought about before, because as we're getting into what's going on in the housing market, we do have, it's a buyer's market. So what do you need to know? How do you get those listings? How do we get people interested in selling their properties? And I'll go through all of that. So just to start off with just some of the things that makes it, I guess, nicer being a listing agent some of the time is controlling your time better, guaranteeing 2 buyer sales efforts go directly in selling the home, and potentially less stress. So when you are a listing agent, you get to set the timeline for the appointments, the open houses, inspections, showings, all of that. And it's easier to have a 9 to 5 schedule, which may be more appealing to you, especially if you have like kids in school and they have 8 million things they do after school, sports, dance, what have you. Gives you the luxury of being able to sort of set those times. If you're the buyer's agent, obviously you're at the mercy of when your buyer can see the house, right? Is it weekends? Is it after hours? So listing agent, you get to dictate a little more of your time schedule. You're guaranteed 2 buyers at any sale. So statistically for each listing, you will get a 2 buyer sales. So that's upping the ante for you. It could be not only the seller is a potential buyer, but also people that come into the home that are interested in it. So or internet leads on your listing converting to a buyer. Statistically, I think it's 95% of people look online for homes. And, so your listing's up there, they may contact you to say, hey, I'm interested in this. And guess what? If they don't qualify or it's not for them, now you kind of get an idea of what they are looking for, because they're looking at this particular home. So being able to convert a potential buyer into an actual client is something that is a benefit as a listing agent. Efforts go directly into selling the home. Everything you're doing, open houses, pitch sessions, social media posts, all go into selling the home. And you're not, again, running around showing a bunch of different homes. You have one property, then that's what your focus is on. Hopefully you have more than one. Less stress. You don't have to worry about issues that you would when working with a buyer. Like, will they qualify for financing? A lot of the FAR contract and any contract is really geared to the buyer doing their due diligence, doing the inspection, making sure they've done A, B, C, D, getting the loan. All of that is managing their time frame. So again, on the listing side, we've got the listing. There's still time frames the seller has to meet, but not as many as the buyer. We're going to talk about the top 10 things becoming the best listing agent in your area. So communication, negotiation, etc. Again, these are all sort of tidbits and tips from the field that I wanted to share with you. So the first one is communication. Every year, the National Association of Realtors does a study where they survey all the different generations. So baby boomers, Gen X, millennial, Gen Z, silent generation, etc. And they're like, what are you looking for in a home? What are you looking for in, as a buyer, as a seller? What are you looking for in a realtor? And the number one thing that they want across the board is good communication. You're their main point of contact. Okay. So making sure that you are communicating expectations, setting those boundaries, setting all of the sort of groundwork is what they're going to be relying for you on. So questions you want to ask your seller, because again, this is a very emotional time sometimes, especially if it's their home that they have memories in, right? So what's important to the seller? And tailoring your marketing to that specific seller based on what they've told you. Towards the end, we are going to talk about listing presentations and sort of how you even, if you are sitting down at a listing, what kind of questions you want to ask. How do you close that deal? And that really is a lot of it just listening to what specifically your client wants. Remember, this is their home, this is their castle, and they're selling it, they're giving it up. And so, what is important to them helps build trust too. You are, again, the main point of contact. Having that communication is key. Number two is negotiation. So, same study, when they ask sellers, what do they expect their agents to do for them? Number one on the selling side is that you're negotiating the price, the time frame, all of that. That's the one thing they need you to do more than anything. With that, you need to understand all the contracts addendums that are being offered so you can effectively negotiate. There are, again, Florida Association of Realtors. I don't work for them, but it is an amazing resource for you. They have, of course, all the contracts, but they have a wide variety of webinars breaking down the contract so you really understand it. They have a little section on their website under legal news, and periodically they'll go through like section 8 of the contract and talk all about loan financing and things you need to know as a real estate agent. Educating yourself, making sure you understand these contracts inside and out are very important. As you may know, most people don't read the contract from the start to beginning. They look at what's the purchase price, what's the closing time, how long's my inspection period, etc. We need to understand what the contract's saying so that when you get something that comes over, you can effectively negotiate on behalf of your seller. So we have those compensation forms, all the riders, and those get updated periodically. When last year, when the buyer broker agreements became the rule, FARBAR created some addendums to the contract. So now, as part of the contract, a buyer can say, hey, my offer is contingent upon the listing agent or seller paying my broker's compensation. If you don't know what that's about, you could be in trouble. Things like the flood disclosure or the condo disclosure, which they just revised and gutted back on July 1st. Flood disclosure in particular, all residential properties, seller needs to complete a flood disclosure before a contract's executed. If it's not being executed before the contract is, now you've got some legal problems down the road. So knowing all of these things is key to successful negotiations, also success as a listing agent. Partnerships, I just sang the praises of Wendy and Title Now, but having those partnerships in the industry, good quality professional people, because again, this is a reflection of you, who are attorneys, lenders, whatever you need to do, building those relationships with those type of people, because if things go south, they're going to look to you, and no matter who you've referred, so know that. But they can also recommend services to your customers as well. We have a lot of like FIRPTA, Foreign Investment in Real Property Tax Act situations. Wendy's group can handle that and guide you through where you should go. So you're not an island all by yourself. So building those partnerships. They're also a great source of referrals potentially. And not even building partnerships in the industry, building partnerships outside the industry for referrals, building that sphere of influence. Maintaining relationships, keeping in touch with people after closing. I think I have it in here, but it's something like 70% of buyers do not remember their realtor's name 1 year after closing. That's terrible. I still remember my realtor's name because she emails me every year. It's been 14 years, but she's still like, hey, just checking in. Here's, little tidbit. It's just once a year, but I'm like, oh, there's Gail. She's kept in touch with me. I remember her name, but most people have moved on. It's a very stressful time buying and selling and all of that too, but you want to make sure that your buyers in particular remember you so that a couple years down the road when they're ready to sell, they want to come back to you. So keep in touch with them. And in fact, top producers, 60% of their business come from past clients. And that's just not past clients in particular, but past clients referring business to them because they've kept in touch with them. There are things like the CRMs, there's HubSpot, Salesforce, Follow Up Boss, wide variety of different tools out there that help you organize and automate your correspondence. And that makes it a lot easier for you to keep in touch with people, even if it's like a periodic email, just so they see your name. Because if you can get 60% of business from past clients, that's no cold calling. That should be easy money. Online presence. We're going to get more into a little bit social media when we talk about marketing. But you want to have a website that shares info about you and make sure it's a good website, and it's available on all platforms. So a lot of times people create a website on a PC, but when you look at it on the mobile phone, you're pulling up the web browser on your mobile phone, it does not translate. You can't see things. It's hard to navigate through. So whatever you're building needs to be optimized on every platform that's out there, tablets, cell phones, PCs, etc. But you want to have that information share information about who you are. And there's some rules as to posting and all of that, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But your website really needs to be, here's my services, this is, my hours, my contact information, etc. There are companies out there that do website design. If you're not sure how to do it, reach out to them. Having a robust website is still important. Again, people do their research. The consumer experience these days is not, oh, I see an ad, I'm going to buy it. You see an ad and you do your research on it. We're going to go and I'm going to look up that website. I'm going to look up Google business profiles, right? I'm going to go on your social media and see what you're all about. And I think we've done the class on Google business profiles, but you have to have one. This is how we do business. Don't worry about Yelp. It is Google business profiles. Because when I'm Googling your name should pop up with some stars. Give me information about you. I want to read reviews. We are a review-oriented society. And then, of course, be professional. It's a crazy world out there. Do not get political. Remember, everything you post, the internet is forever. Um, you're a real estate agent. Your job is to sell real estate. So that's our focus. Neighborhood knowledge, common sense, right? If you're going to go take a listing, you need to know about that neighborhood. Who are the builders? How many days are these properties on the market? What price ranges sell the quickest? MLS has hot sheets, which shows listing events, new listings, price changes that have recently occurred on MLS. And then Florida Realtors has Sun Stats, which is info on pricing in your area. So when you're before you even take a listing, it's like doing that research, understanding that neighborhood, right? But more importantly, because the first question a seller is going to ask is how much can I get for my house? Is having that info. And what are the trends in other parts of the state? Because what's happening down in Miami or what's happening up in Orlando, you know, businesses moving in, which means people moving in, which means people moving out potentially if businesses leave. What's happening to help you determine, how you're going to market? Pricing properly. You want to give the seller a tangible number to work with. Show them how they can earn money or invest or however they want. You can test yourself through the MLS. You can look at the details of the house and then guess a price and then check the actual value. It's a good practice. A couple or even a year ago, property values were going up, and I think everything's sort of stabilized right now. So the market shifts. And that's something you need to be knowledgeable about, because when you do sit down with the seller, you need to be able to explain to them why we're going to list it at this price, especially if they want to sell it within a certain time frame. Breaking bad news, not doing the damage control when there's a major issue that can end that deal. Communicating openly and honestly, breaking it as soon as possible. Do not wait. So if you've got, let's say, you're working with the buyer's agent and you just know things are going south. Again, goes back to communication, keeping that seller in the loop. People are much happier if you're proactive in communication, even if it's bad news, rather than waiting till like the day of closing, go, oops, forgot to tell you that, or yeah, we've been working on this issue. Don't do it. On the title and closing end, we don't. As soon as, that's why we provide a commitment, because we're like, here are the issues we're going to run into. These are the time frames. We want to communicate that early because we want to resolve it to see if we can get to closing. Budgeting. Out of the top 5 reasons businesses fail, 2 are related to money. You must create a budget. It's a roadmap for success. Obviously, what's going to dictate all of this is how many properties you must sell each year to set a goal. And I think I've done the business plan class for you as well, but just a reminder that every year you should be creating a business plan, updating it, setting your goal for not only just financial success, but personal success, because that's all ties into your growth. But not having any idea of, if I sell 5 houses, I make that. But I'm also, let's say my goal is $100,000, but I'm spending more than I'm making because I'm not budgeted. That is going to be the kiss of death for you. If you don't want to get underwater, you need to have some sort of budget and be realistic about it. Open houses. Now, I know there's like some real estate agents hate open houses, hate doing them, but you have this potential, to even get more listings from the nosy neighbor. Every time there's an open house in my neighborhood, I've got like the same 3 older ladies that are like, I'm like, go check it out and tell me what it's all about. Because I work in this industry. So I'm like, I don't want to waste anyone's time. They love it. They go in, they give you the layout, they talk to the realtor, they've got everything. They're not ready to sell, but it's really interesting because a few of my neighbors got the intel and they immediately called that listing agent like, oh, they're selling that for that. What can I get for my house? So having that person that's walked in and is kind of interested in just wanting to see what it's about, maybe they're not ready to sell, but that's all right. Talk to them, say, hey, why don't I come over, make an appointment, let's take a look at your house. Let's just get an idea of what you could sell it for at this time, or what you would need to do to get it up for market. Even if they're not ready, you've got their contact info and you keep in touch with them because you want to, again, be the person they think about when they are ready to sell. Some tips from the field. This came from a Florida Realtors article, and I actually have the link for the article in here. Being a sphere of influence. So we talk about influencers, on social media. You can make a lot of money as an influencer, but it is truly the same idea as a real estate agent. Be the local expert. This is all going to tie into social media marketing as well. You want to be able to say, this is my town. We're going to talk about it in farming too, but these are restaurants, these are things even outside of sort of the real estate realm. So it looks like, I always joke that you're the mayor of the town, right? People know who you are. Be that sphere of influence, because the other thing is with listings is people see your name. Now I want to list my house. Maybe I don't know you at all, but I see your name everywhere. So obviously you're an influencer. I've read your Google reviews. I'm going to use you. Uncover true motivations. This goes to that listing or to that listening piece. Are they selling because they have to move? They want to move? What's the pressure behind selling this property? To help you sort of, again, create a listing presentation to be able to market that property. Building a network, other realtors, other people in the industry. I know they have those like breakfasts for the marketing and networking. Join those, because other realtors are another great source of referrals. Honestly, even though you're in competition, you might meet somebody that's like, well, I'm up in Orlando and I don't know anything about Miami. This guy wants to sell you, as a friend of mine. Here you go. All of that is that building that network. Using a CRM, those HubSpots, Follow Up Boss, etc. Really a time saver. It is your database for everything you need to know about your clients. And again, you can automate communication. Now, you need to respond when they respond, but you get the idea that at least you're getting information out there. Double down on what sets you apart. You are selling yourself in the best terms possible, but it's a very competitive business we are in. So what sets you apart? Highlight those strengths. And in fact, as part of your business plan, we do this practice called strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Write down 5 strengths that you have and work those into your marketing. So maybe you're an excellent communicator. Maybe you are, uh, and it doesn't have to just be about real estate. It could be something like maybe you're a marathon runner. So what does that tell me? That means you have endurance, you have strength. Work those kind of things in. Then also on the flip side, write down 5 weaknesses. And weaknesses aren't failures. Weaknesses are things that you want to get better at. Because when you're doing a plan at the end of the year, following year, you should have not necessarily overcome the weaknesses, but strengthened them a little bit. All of this is to help build you and build your marketing and to let people know what sets you apart. Find your niche, whether it's farming an area, or maybe you want to focus on, distressed properties, short sales. We've seen an uptick in and some foreclosures. Maybe you want to do luxury markets. Maybe you want to just work with foreign sellers and buyers. Find your niche and educate yourself on that. Offer something of value. Again, not just like a monetary, like a gift of some sort, but what other things can you bring to the table? Maybe being that source of um, uh, contact after closing when things come up. Oh, let me help. Oh, you have landscaping issues. I've got a guy. Those kinds of things. And then perform that real estate checkup. That's part of the keeping in touch as well. Not only informing former clients about what's going on in the industry or economically, but for you as well, what is happening? The housing market, again, we are always fluctuating, right? We rarely are a steady line for any amount of time. So what is happening? Listen to some economists. Fannie Mae has a great one, okay? And they'll tell you what the housing market is doing, the predictions, et cetera, to help you plan. And here's that link for that how to get listings with tips from the field. Marketing, social media obviously is key. According to National Association of Realtors, 77% of real estate agents use social media. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram are the top three. Goals are to build meaningful relationships and get more business. You get a window into the lives of others and them into yours. So the idea behind social media is this is who I am. These are my trust indicators. This is why you should use me. Because when I'm looking at you or your social media profile, it's like, oh, they're like-minded. Again, we don't get political, we don't get religious, we don't do anything like that. We focus on the business and how you can help out a client, which by the way, your posts 80%, I don't know if I have that in here. 80% should be about what your client's needs and wants are. So talk about real estate and what you can do for them. Facebook tips, setting up a business page, giving you access to business features like analytics, images, videos work best. Facebook algorithm favors posts that get a lot of engagement. So ask questions to drive comments or post content your followers will share, like, etc. That's the game, right? If you're just posting randomly and you're not engaged and you're not liking other people's stuff or getting responses, then you need to change your game. Because if I'm you can see it even like I have friends that I was like, am I still friends with this person on Facebook? Because they don't ever post anything. We still are, or they have posted stuff, but we're not engaging, so they don't show up in my feed anymore. You can answer people questions in groups or Facebook Live. It's all about connections and not giving sales pitch, but to build relationships. Okay. And I swear I should have the 80-20 rule in here. 20% is all you're just talking about. You can talk about your services, but 80% is really what your clients want to hear about. Which again, a lot of that you can get what people are interested in based on generations in that National Association of Realtors study. LinkedIn, make sure your profile is up to date. It's a great opportunity to network with real estate agents, current clients, and other brokerages. This is your networking. Instagram, visual platform, so every post must be visually compelling. You can provide details regarding the property, contact info. One post can have several images to easily market the property. I just read an article a couple of weeks ago, actually, about Instagram marketing for real estate agents, and that was on the Florida Realtors website. Really good info, and just like 5 little tidbits for you to consider changing things up. So you got, 98% of millennials search for homes online. They're the largest group of home buyers right now. They search for information. They look for answers to their questions. That's the kind of stuff you want to put out there. Largest group of home sellers right now are baby boomers. So they're also on Facebook. And things, they're looking for information too. So that's the stuff you want to post about. Top 5 things you need to know about listing your house. Top 5 things you need to know about the Miami market, whatever it is. Again, don't do in-your-face marketing. You want to use social media to walk people through the closing process, provide information for they're looking for. Q&A sessions are a good way to do it. Oh, here we go. Past and current clients, 70% of homeowners can't remember the real estate agent's name 1 year after closing. In addition to a CRM, social media is a great way to keep in touch with people. But with all of this, you need to choose your platforms wisely. Can you manage all of your accounts? If you don't use Twitter/X and you have an account, just get rid of it and focus on 1 or 2. Facebook and Instagram, as you know, you can post on one, it goes to the other. Get a YouTube channel, whatever you can manage. Uh, and knowing what platforms are your audience is on. If you're into commercial real estate, LinkedIn's a great resource for you. Posting has to be consistent and strategic. I do a social media class, and I'll always get somebody that's like, I don't, it doesn't work for me. I'm like, okay, well, how often do you post? And do you have a schedule? No, I just post when I see something that I feel like I should share. It's like, that's not sufficient. Remember, these are algorithms. The more you post, the more you get interaction, the more your little face is going to pop up in someone's feed. So be consistent and strategic. Set up a calendar. Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to post this, that, and the other thing. There's Hootsuite, which is a great resource and free to use, where you can, maybe Sunday afternoon, set up your calendar for the week, and they automatically post for you. Now, what you have to do, though, is interact and monitor that. So when somebody likes, comments, or shares, you need to respond. With all of this, the online presence, this is a short little article from Florida Realtors, and they call it sweat on successfully posting. So study who your ideal clients are. And that is something, again, kind of tying back into that business plan. You need to identify, who are you marketing to? Because if you say everyone, fantastic, but be realistic. In your market, who are you marketing to? That's the kind of stuff you want to post. Who's winning in other markets? Obviously, we always look at our competitors, see what they're doing online. Escalate your activity. That means get it on a calendar. Make sure you're being consistent and strategic about it. Adding value. So we're not just posting things, funny memes and all of that. You're giving something of value. Again, top 5 things you need to know about listing your property. And then take the long view, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. If you're posting things and you're not getting likes or comments, then you shift what you're posting. That's all it is. And so it's a learning process, and it's building that fan base, so to speak, which does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. Other marketing is farming. That's where you pick an area and focus on making a name for yourself in that area, becoming the top realtor of choice. What you need to know when you pick an area is how many homes sell per year in that farm area. Will you have to incur higher costs because of higher property values? Consider picking a subdivision with high turnover areas. Marketing ideas when you're farming, home sold stats, which are great. I actually have a friend who's a real estate agent in my neighborhood. I have like 2 or 3 real estate agents that focus just on my area. It's because I live in a huge subdivision. And so they'll come around periodically with just home solds, like a little flyer on the homes that have sold in the neighborhood, really to see if anyone sparks an interest in somebody. Just listed, just sold flyers, neighborhood newsletter. Everyone has one. Advertise in there, put in information, brochure, box flyers. More than likely the neighbors walking their dogs take them. But again, wow, they're getting this for their house. Let me just see if I can get anything. Open houses, we talked about that. Neighborhood videos, working that into your social media, because I want to know that you care about my neighborhood, or our neighborhood. And, I've got, for example, Amy, she's one of the farming agents around here. She'll do like a quarterly, I think it's quarterly, she'll hire a shredding company to go to the golf course. And so if you want to bring over, documents that you don't want to just throw in the garbage, she basically pays for it. She has little koozies and all kinds of pens and all kinds of things that she hands out at it. But it's free to the neighbors. So she's letting everyone know, I'm doing this. She posted on social media. So it's like she cares about her neighborhood. Other marketing for thinking outside the box. We're going to go through each of these. But there's, it's not just, oh, this guy's ready to sell. Maybe there's the hunt you have to do. So let's take a look at each of these. The first one is unlisted inventory. Identifying sellers that currently do not have a listing but plan on selling in their future. Again, we've got our open house potential, turning that nosy neighbor or just anyone walking in um, to see if they're interested in potentially selling down the road. Maximizing your sphere of influence. I like this one because let's say you are working with a buyer, or you're at a meeting and you've got, one of the other real estate agents stands up and they're like, I'm selling this property, blah, blah, blah. Or I've got a buyer, excuse me, I have a buyer that's kind of looking for these parameters. And you're like, wait a minute, I sold a house in that neighborhood to so and so. Let me reach out to them. And by the way, you've been reaching out to them the whole time because they're in your CRM and you're periodically, touching base. And you call them and say, listen, I've got a buyer, really wants to be in that neighborhood. Do you have any neighbors that might be interested in sell that I could reach out to? Or maybe you are. That's that unlisted inventory. Absentee owners. We have a huge fraud problem here in the state of Florida for people that own properties here that don't live in the state or don't live at that property. So they either live in another state, they live in a foreign country, or maybe they're elderly and they are in a nursing home at this point. So they're absentee, they don't live at that property. And maybe because you've sold second homes to people and they don't understand what the market's doing down here. We're doing really well compared to a lot of the rest of the state or rest of the states, I should say. So maybe you reach out to them. Hey, remember you bought this property. I just wanted to let you know, here's the value of it currently. You can even talk about the potential seller fraud. You can even reach out to them and say, hey, let's get you on the database with the property appraiser. So if your property does get sold out from underneath you because of fraud, you'll get an alert. And that might prompt them to say, you know what, maybe it's time to sell. But giving them at least the information about what's going on in the Florida housing market to push them to potentially want to sell the property. Expired listings, expired contracts between realtors and homeowners. Most homeowners will relist after the expiration. You can contact the seller, share some past details, etc. For sale by owner, about 8% of homes are sold by FSBO, about 10% switch to a realtor. So reaching out to you drive around, you see for sale by owner. Hey, just letting you know, if you need help with anything, um, let I'm your point of contact as a realtor, and can I touch base in a month or so if things are not moving? We can talk about, the benefits of hiring a realtor. That's your job. And at least maybe you switch their mindset because a lot of it is the why they don't want to use a realtor is they don't want to pay commission. Okay, we'll talk about at the end of the day, this is still what you're going to net with commission paid. Distressed properties, we kind of talked about, maybe a niche market is getting into REOs and short sales. National Association of Realtors also offers this, the SFR designation for short sales and foreclosure properties. And they're actually doing an in-person class, I think in Port Charlotte in November through Florida Association of Realtors, but you can get the certification online. It gives you all the how to deal with short sales, how to deal with any distressed property. But it is a niche area, absolutely. And there are properties for sale. If you wanted to be an REO agent in particular, you'd have to go through a process of getting vetted by a bank, community or credit union, asset manager, what have you. But once you get on the books with them, they start submitting properties to you because you're their point of contact, you're their vendor. Short sales, same thing, kind of thing. You get that certification, you educate yourself, and now you become sort of an expert on short sales. And it's a different process, as you guys know, completely opposite of a consumer to consumer transaction because the seller's lender in a short sale is dictating a lot of it. So understanding the process and talking to your seller and being able to talk to the seller's lender and say, hey, a short sale would be a better option than a foreclosure. These are things that you can educate yourself on and become an expert in, and focus that on for distressed properties. Also, when we're dealing with REOs in particular, is easy. It's a lot easier on the selling side because there's no repairs. They want to sell quickly. Not a lot of negotiations. Former agents listings. Ask your boss if you can go through former agents listings, see if there's anything available there. Divorce. Over 31% of divorcing couples will list within 6 months of filing. The bonus, listing and potentially 2 buyers. Facebook. People put separated, complicated, divorce. You can create Facebook ads targeting those. There is a real estate brokerage in the Dallas area who does this in particular. They just focus on divorcing couples, and that's how they market it. And it's very much like, we know you're going through a hard time. We are not counselors, but we are experienced in dealing with divorces, divorcing couples, and how to deal with their real estate asset. And they target anyone that's changed their status on Facebook to one of these things. Inherited homes. Over 1 million people inherit a home every year. Huge majority end up selling because of repairs, location, etc. That's a big thing down here in Florida. We have a lot of elderly people who bought a home down here. They live down here. They pass away. Their kids or other family members don't live in Florida, and they don't want the property because it's probably not beachfront, but it's a property that, they're like, I just want to sell it fast. I don't want to put money into it. It's probably paid off. So whatever we can do to sell it. What you can do, you can go online, look at local probate cases on the county clerk's website, narrow it down to probate or inheritance. Is public data you can easily access. So typing in any current probate situations, see what's happening. Again, you could even do a Facebook ad or something along the lines that says that, we work with heirs and what have you. Or contacting, by the way, probate attorneys, building relationships with them, adding them as a sphere of influence. Property taxes, 23% of homes that are sold in any given year have some type of back tax to pay. You can go on the assessor's website, see homes that are behind. April 1st is when your taxes become delinquent for the year prior. And from April 1st to about June 1st, the property appraiser will do a tax lien sale, and they'll sell that delinquency for that year. You can go on there and see the properties that are going to be sold, not the properties, the liens that are going to be sold for what properties, and then maybe reach out to the homeowner, because it's all public records, and say, we see, if you're on the tax default type thing, maybe we can look at getting you out of your property, getting you something more affordable. Okay, so that's some thinking outside the box. Now, steps for a successful listing. Know the homeowner. Review their social media, which, by the way, this is, I think, one of especially here in Florida, where you get calls from random people all the time. Like, I want to list my property, or I want to buy a property. To avoid fraud, we always, and this is what Forewarn does, which is Florida Association of Realtors, sort of fraud defense, is do an independent search. And this, because they're going to do this to you, right? Your buyer or seller or whoever wants to hire you is going to look at your social media. So go on there, see what they're about. Again, gives you an idea how to market to them. Recent life change events, job changes, hobbies, where they vacation last, creates conversation, builds connection, etc. Because the seller is going to do the same for you. Again, Google business profile, they're going to look at that. Research the history of the home. So we're researching the seller. Then we're going to research the history of the home. Previous MLS descriptions. Reading up on the builder and any renovations that were done. Learning about previous listing prices. Understanding local market trends. How many days of home in the market, whether prices are pushing upward or falling. Being able to communicate these trends to potential sellers. Sellers are going to want what? Top dollar. Okay. And I'll give you an example. There was a house in my neighborhood that was gutted. The builder went in and redid everything, turned it into a total smart home. So, you sneeze, the door opens, whatever. They sold it for, I can't remember, but it was like astronomical. The neighbor across the street's like, oh, that sold for $1 million. I bet I can get the same for mine. It's like, no, you cannot, because it's not your house, it's not a smart home. But when that realtor, because they listed it for a ridiculous amount, and I'm like, there's a difference. This house was created into a whole computerized thing. Your house is not. And so you're not going to get that money. And that house sat on the market for a year, I think, just about a year, because the seller didn't want to budge in terms of price, because the house across the street sold for this $1 million and they wanted $1 million. Being realistic. And if the realtor was smart and sat down and said, here's the difference, and this is what this house had, and this is what you've got, you know, this is what you can net the most at. So comparable homes sales and similar homes currently for sale are among the most important pieces of info home sellers are looking for. That house across the street was not comparable to the house that that person owned. So need to know which homes or listings will compete against and how to position it home for sale. Being able to communicate what sets you apart and why sellers should list their homes through you. Does the agent have a large database of buyers? Do you provide professional videos? Are open houses amazing? Marketing a home requires careful planning. It should be done before meeting with potential sellers. So you have a pre-game before you actually sit down with the seller when you're presenting a listing presentation, okay? Listing presentations, I really like them. In fact, I like them for buyers presentations as well. Why should I use you out of the million real estate agents in the state of Florida? Why should I use you? Well, here's a booklet on your house and a little bit about me. So it helps facilitate the appointment, provides a more structured approach, presents your services, benefits, and reasons for choosing you over competitors. And you can do a PowerPoint booklet, a binder. I really like a little binder that you leave on the coffee table with your face on the cover, so that every time they walk by, they see your face, like, oh, I got to call Susie and get this rolling. The top deciding factor sellers use in choosing their agent is reputation. Your listing presentation should build and affirm that reputation. First, you want to find out who the sellers are. Again, Facebook search, and then what their expectations are. You can actually do an online survey too, maybe send them over. Here's a checklist questions of like what you're looking for. Again, it's probably easier to pick up the phone and actually have a conversation because of all the fraud and fake emails and all of that. Send them goodies, stuff like that before you sit down with them so they have information. 5 steps to a good listing presentation: building rapport, developing that needs analysis, presenting the info, handling objections, and closing. So building rapport, that's what you're really doing. Remember, we're listening to what the seller's needs and wants are. There's this thing called Ford, and it's Sales Technique 101. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. These are the 4 areas that will give you everything you need to know about a person. Tell me about your family. How many kids do you have? Grandkids, etc. And by the way, you're taking notes in this and putting it all on your CRM for later. What do you do for a living? What do you do for your free time? What's your recreation? Where do you see yourself? What do you want to do? What is your dream? What's your dream home? Where's your dream place to live? All of that builds the connection, and that's the information you really want to get to help you create a good listing presentation. Again, why are you moving? What do you love about the house? Ask questions to determine their motivation. The information, now I said like a booklet or a binder, should not be a novel. It should be a few pages. Here they suggest about 5. 3 things that the seller ID'd as important, and discuss how you will address those needs. I can tell you right now, the number 1 thing is, again, price, right? 2 things that you want to make sure they know you do. One should be about all about your reputation, your wins, etc. Handle objections, answer questions and address any potential issues. How would you handle issues? Because they're going to come up. But going back to the person that wanted to sell their, $500,000 home for $1 million, the real hard conversation would be, this is why we're selling it at this and not that, because if you want to sell it within this time frame and you do not have the smart home things or whatever, because they're going to object to that. Well, they got that for that. Knowing how to handle those objections is key. And then closing it, ask for the business. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to do. One is everyone should know you're a realtor, and number two, asking for the business. Because by the time you get to the end of that listing presentation, they should be like, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. There are scripts that are out there. This comes from the real estate trainer, I think they're called, but things you can just thinking about, because you have to be brutally honest. Maybe not brutally, but honest enough that it's like, this is why we're doing this, this, and this. So some things you could say before viewing the home. I'm going to walk through the home with you looking at it through eyes of a buyer. Can I be brutally honest? What have you? Have that home seller information questionnaire filled out while you walk through the home. Scale of 1 to 10, how honest do you want me to be? Besides price, what else do you want to know? Tell me what questions you have for me. What are you most concerned about with selling your home? These are all things to ask. And that is the realestatetrainer.com listing presentations. And finally, the saying is, when you list, you last. And hopefully what I provided you today was a good overview of, or at least made you think, hey, I'm going to try this. Or I didn't think about looking up inherited properties or working with a probate attorney. There's a lot of things out there that you can do to try and get listings. Again, competitive market. There's a lot of people listing their homes. Crazy time with buyers, but what do you need to do to stand above and out from everyone else? And that's what I tried to give to you today. So hopefully it was good info. I know Wendy had to jump off.
Yes.
Any questions on any of this?
This is the time to ask. Karen, thank you. Thank you so much. I know that Wendy had to step out, and we do take thank Title Now for this presentation. You've touched so many different important topics that we've been teaching to our realtors, to our members, the importance of becoming a listing agent, as you said, that who lists last in the industry, even though it might be crazy and chaotic, and we might be thinking the listings are not moving. They are moving with the strategies that we will be teaching on a class actually this month. Um, the last class of this month will be about that, how making the listing for it to sell. But if there's any questions that you guys have now for Karen, taking advantage of the few minutes that we still have, this is the time to ask.
Also, just want to throw in here, Wendy did put her contact information
Yes,
in the chat box for everyone, so you can take that down. But
absolutely.
yeah, if you think of anything later, you're like, hey, what about this? Feel free to reach out to Wendy. She'll get with me too. And then, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate, if there's other topics you want to hear about, reach out to Wendy. We can set something up. And with that, I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Again, thank you. Thank you so much for the members who are here. Next class will be about contracts and common mistakes, which is also tied to what just Karen taught us. We need to make sure that we're not making certain mistakes in the listing presentation for the listing contract and the FARBAR contract. And as I said, the last class of this month, I will be teaching you in Spanish how to make a successful listing presentation and listing the property correctly in order for it to sell. That's going to be in Spanish. And the takeaway from this class, as Karen said, you really have to focus on one niche. Be really an expert. Take one of those many different opportunities to becoming a listing agent, and taking one and becoming an expert in the level and in that level, and you will be a successful listing agent. So thank you for joining us again. Looking forward to next class at 10 a.m. about common mistakes in contracts. And the last class of this month will be about how to making a successful listing presentation and selling that listing correctly. I'll see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye now. Bye.